Hey guys, it's Austin with Zenith Firearms, and today on this Pro Tips video, we're going to be talking about the maintenance schedule for your Zenith firearms. Now, anytime I set out and start planning out one of these videos, usually what I first think of is I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a video on first the ZF-5 platform and then the MRDS, in this case, my ZF-56. And, like you guys saw with the aftermarket compatible parts video, what I found was that there's actually more in common with all these platforms than there are things that are different. And that's gonna be the same with the maintenance schedule side of things on the guns themselves. So if you didn't know, right, we have our ZF-5 platform, which is a MP5 family line of clones, and then we now have our MRDS, or our Modern Roller Delayed System family of firearms as well. This one's the ZF-56, which is chambered in 5.56. This is a 12-inch variant, and enjoy it a lot. But we took everything we learned about the MP5 platform with our ZF-5 line and we modernized it, right? So Modern Roller Delayed System, this is a modernized roller delayed firearm, and it shares a lot of its DNA with what we've learned and what we've refined on the roller delayed side. So it's included in this video. And we're gonna talk about at what intervals you should be repairing, cleaning, changing out some of these parts. We're not gonna demonstrate in this video how to do all those individual things. We have other videos on all of that on our channel, but we are gonna talk about the schedule itself, right? Now, the most basic form of maintenance that exists with any firearm is your cleaning schedule. So what do we recommend as far as how often you clean your firearm? Well, that's gonna depend heavily on one big factor, and that factor is these guys right here. So if you're firing suppressed, we're gonna recommend that you clean your firearm about every 500 rounds. If you're firing unsuppressed, our recommendation is every 1,000 rounds. Now, you guys have heard me talk about it on this channel before. I'm not the model citizen in terms of being very diligent about cleaning and replacing parts on schedule. These guns, I've shot them a lot and they've functioned well past a lot of those recommended schedules. But just in terms of due diligence and what we recommend for keeping all of your firearms in the best condition, we're gonna recommend cleaning it every 500 rounds if you're shooting suppressed and every 1,000 rounds if you're shooting unsuppressed. Now, what is the reason for that? Roller delayed firearms function incredibly well suppressed, and they also perform more consistently suppressed and unsuppressed. The biggest drawback of that being that these do get dirty a little bit faster once you shoot them suppressed. So that is why there's such a stark difference between when we recommend cleaning suppressed versus unsuppressed. The neglect that will cause the most malfunctions is failure to lube your firearms, which is why we recommend cleaning and lubricating every 500 rounds if you're shooting that suppressed, which is about 100% of the time what I'm shooting. The roller delayed platform is a firearm that, and you've heard JR say this on our channel before, it likes to be run wet, right? So there's a lot of guns out there, Glocks, just as an example, that run perfectly fine dry. 416s run great dry. The roller delayed platforms, they prefer some lubrication. So the lube I'm using right now, Aegis, A-E-G-I-S Gun Care. It's just the lube I happen to be using right now. We were next to this guy at a trade show once, and he gave me a bottle of lube, and I've been using it ever since. So it works pretty well. You don't have to use a fancy gun lube brand either, like the Aegis or Gun Butter. I know a lot of my friends like Gun Butter. It can be something as basic as the Lucas Oil extreme duty gun oil. I've had this bottle for years, and again, it works totally fine. I do live in a little bit of a warmer climate, and so I can use a little bit thinner lubes and not have an issue. That may not necessarily be the case wherever you live, so kind of keep that in mind, keep your climate in mind, and research what lube works best for your climate as well. So now that we've talked about the cleaning schedule, let's get into when you should actually start replacing components on any of your Zenith firearms. There's one part that you're gonna find yourself replacing more than anything else, and it's why we have a specific video on it, and that is going to be the extractor spring. Now, what is the extractor spring? The extractor spring, as I pull out this baggie of them, which should tell you how often they get changed, the extractor spring is actually the little piece of sprung metal that holds tension on the extractor. So in the cycling of the firearm, what's going to happen is the primer is going to get detonated, a round is going to begin exiting the barrel. There's going to be pressure in that chamber, and that pressure is going to hold the bolt closed until a certain time when that pressure releases and the gun begins to cycle. Now, when the bolt starts to cycle backwards after that pressure has dropped off, there is a piece that's gripping the rim of the cartridge. That is your extractor. And in order for that extractor to have tension to grip the cartridge, it needs the extractor spring, right? So the extractor spring is what holds tension on the piece gripping the casing from being stripped from the chamber, right? And then it reaches a certain point in its cycle. There's the ejector, which is a forward-facing piece, and that kicks out the brass itself. So that is the extractor spring. Now, when do we recommend replacing our extractor springs? We recommend doing that about every 2,000 rounds, just checking tension on it, making sure it's still functioning correctly, and if it feels a little bit looser than it did previously, going ahead and replacing that. Now, the good news about shooting suppressed versus unsuppressed is that it doesn't really matter on the extractor spring, right? So no matter what happens, it's always going to have the same amount of stress and tension put on it between suppressed and unsuppressed rounds. So every 2,000 rounds, inspecting these and then replacing them as needed, that's gonna be totally fine no matter what type of muzzle attachment you're using, whether it's a suppressor or not. Now, like I mentioned in our extractor spring replacement video, I have shot these guns and I am not the best at following that maintenance schedule, and they still ran totally fine. I think my record is probably right around 3,000 rounds on my ZF-5P, you know, probably one of my favorite guns to shoot. And so as a result, I'm not the best about replacing the extractor spring. One of the things that we make available for you guys is we have a firing log included with our manual. So this is a firing log, and it gives you a few different columns in here where you can actually log you know, what day and who fired how many rounds, and also any types of repairs or cleaning cycles. You can record that in here as well if you want to be way more diligent and scrupulous than me when it comes to your maintenance schedules and tracking all that information. We do make this available. This will help out a lot too if you send in any type of you know, warranty work or gunsmithing work. Just having this information can certainly help a lot. So that is a resource that is available for you guys. All right, so now we're going to talk about recoil springs. So on the ZF-5 platform, there's actually two different options of recoil springs. There is the full-length one for the ZF-5 and the ZF-5L. This is a ZF-5, right, the standard, normal-sized MP5 variant. And then we have our shortened, our K Kurtz recoil spring, and that's gonna be with any of our PDW ZF-5 variants, right? So ZF-5P, ZF-5T, ZF-5K, all of them are gonna use the shorter recoil guide rod. Now, the maintenance schedule isn't going to matter at all on either of these. We have actually tested all of our recoil springs, including the dual recoil spring in our MRDS, to function well all the way up to 10,000 rounds. Now, just because they will function up to that point doesn't necessarily mean that's our recommendation. We are still going to recommend that you check them and potentially replace them about 3,000 to 5,000 rounds in. On the lower end towards the 3,000 if you're shooting suppressed, because that's gonna put a little bit more tension and pressure on your recoil springs over the lifetime of the shooting schedule. So again, recoil springs, these are available right on our website for all of our firearms. If you ever can't find any of these parts, please email us and we'll be sure to get you set up on getting you the parts, especially on the MRDS as we roll out the parts catalog more and more and complete that out as the years progress. What about all of the immaterial or some of the other parts that are in the ZF-5 or the MRDS? Well, we don't have a recommended replacement schedule for any of the other components. We have tested them to perform basically indefinitely for the lifetime of the part. Now, does that mean that these are indestructible guns that will never ever break? No, absolutely not. You know, these are mechanical objects. All of them are going to wear, all of them are going to be used and see stress and pressure. We just can't prescribe any type of maintenance schedule for any of the other components because there's a possibility that they'll last for the lifetime of the firearm. Now, with all that being said, there are still some components that I elect to keep spares of on hand. Now, what are those parts? Get these recoil springs out of the way. Obviously, we have lube. I need that for cleaning. Recoil springs. Let's get into some of the other parts that I just keep handy for the sake of the longevity and the preparedness of the weapons platforms that I choose to sustain. So first and foremost, firing pins. This number is actually probably pretty excessive, but I just happen to have, you know, multiple ZF-5s and the MRDS, so I'm going to have a few spares on hand. But this is a firing pin and the firing pin spring. This is actually what goes into the bolt. So that is what's going to actually make impact with the primer of your casing, and it's going to ignite the cartridge. Now, I have seen aftermarket triggers cause these to break prematurely. I don't know what causes it. I don't know if it's the spring tension that other manufacturers have put on their aftermarket triggers, and it's not any one specific manufacturer, so I'm not gonna name names, but I have seen aftermarket trigger packs damage the firing pins. So that is why I keep some spares on hand. Again, that is a part that we've tested to function indefinitely, but because of, you know, the fact that I shoot these and I try different parts, different aftermarket parts constantly, I choose to have some spares of those on hand. The other item that I happen to have spares of on hand is these takedown pins, right? Especially because I'm constantly trying new handguards, trying new stocks, trying, you know, many different aftermarket components that we have on all of our firearms. I keep spares of these. You should never really have to like hammer these into place. There are good tools out there that make getting these in and out much easier, and you don't have to manhandle them. With that being said, have I used, you know, like a screwdriver's end to tap one of these in place? Absolutely. And have I cracked one of these due to the fact that I'm constantly changing out different components on my ZF-5s and my MRDS? Absolutely. So I keep spare pins on hand as well. Again, this is all up to you. It's going to completely depend on how often you're changing out parts, if you're using a lot of aftermarket parts, if you're trying new things, or if you have more than one Zenith firearm. It's totally up to you. This is just what I choose to do. And the other thing that I keep on hand is a cleaning kit. Now, remember I talked about how we recommend cleaning every 1,000 rounds if you're shooting unsuppressed, every 500 rounds if you're shooting suppressed. Now, in order to do that well and effectively, you're gonna want a cleaning kit for that. So if you happen to purchase one of our premium packages, you'll get a cleaning kit with your firearm. If not, we do actually sell this very beautifully branded Zenith Firearms cleaning kit right on our website. So those are all of the immaterial parts, the things that I keep on hand just to sort of make my life easier as I experiment with a lot of different aftermarket parts, making media for you guys. I did also want to talk about our gunsmithing services and the about 10,000 round mark. Now, 10,000 rounds, that's a lot for most people. Do I know people that shoot guns to 10,000 rounds within a year, 2 years? Absolutely. A lot of competition shooters, a lot of people who are big firearms enthusiasts, they're gonna shoot a lot. The likelihood that you'll ever shoot all the way to 10,000 rounds is pretty low, but at 10,000 rounds, we recommend a complete top-down work through on it, checking the rifling of the barrel, checking all of the receiver, and just giving it a complete once-over. Like I said, we do offer gunsmithing services, so if you'd like for us to service it after that 10,000 round mark, that's absolutely something we can do. When it comes to barrels, if you shoot out your barrel, one of the things that I actually didn't know until very recently is that this isn't like an AR-15 where, you know, it's a part that you could change out on the tailgate of a truck at a gun range. It actually requires it to be pressed in place in this, this nut that goes into the receiver set. So that's not something that you're going to be able to just do, you know, in most people's garages or at a workbench. That is going to require professional gunsmithing. So if you shoot out a barrel, you're probably going to have to go ahead and send that in to us so that way we can get it fitted with a new barrel, which is something we've done. Ask Caleb what happens when a barrel has to be replaced. Lastly, just some parts that we have on our website if you're wanting to change them out for compatibility's sake or just to have an extra one on hand to be able to quickly change it out. We offer locking pieces and bolts on our website as well. The locking piece is one of those parts that we've tested that should function indefinitely. However, if you're wanting to try out a different angle of locker for something like a high back pressure, high volume suppressor, we do offer those on our website as well as an option. I do keep one handy as well, but again, that's one of those parts that's tested to run indefinitely. And then just for the sake of speed, you know, let's say I'm out on the gun range and I'm shooting a lot and I'm making a lot of media for you guys, and I happen to break, or I'm starting to have some wear on my extractor spring, I just keep a entire bolt with me, just so that way I could, you know, I wouldn't have to get out a pick tool and replace this at the gun range. It would be as easy as just pulling this out, swapping it over, and I'm back in action. And then, you know, I can service the extractor spring on the other bolt when I get back to my workshop. So if you're like me and you just keep extra BCGs around for your direct impingement AR-15s, having an extra bolt for your ZF-5s or your MRDS just makes things super easy if you have any type of maintenance issue that comes up at the gun range and you don't want to do an entire gunsmith workup on your tailgate. Well, hey guys, I hope that answered all of your questions in terms of the maintenance schedule of all the Zenith firearms. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out for us. We have a great customer service team who does an amazing job of getting you guys the information you need to know about taking care of these firearms. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say we have decades of experience on the roller delayed platform in our assembly and gunsmithing areas at Zenith Firearms. So if any of those services and any of those skill sets are of interest to you or your team or your agency, if you guys are rocking some MP5s, please reach out to us. We'd love to take care of you and just help keep Americans safe and help keep Americans well armed. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, be a citizen, not a subject. Have a good day.